Welcome to mirroring number 3. This one is focused on handwriting, though there's a lot more talked about in mirroring number 3. As with all episodes of mirroring, there have been 2 so far. A very questionable intro and an improved number 2. And hopefully I'm getting a little bit more polished. So, this is written on 4/17. I think today is the 23rd of April, 2023. Why write with both hands? Why practice mirror writing? This is what I'm writing here. I think people should give ambidexterity a shot, which is why my fledgling mirroring project exists. So the main persuasive point to people interested in the topic is the obvious one. By writing with your non-dominant hand, fine motor skills start developing on the side of your body that lacks coordination. Instead of one side of your body that can do things, 2 sides can. It's a basic, even mundane advantage. And writing is a ridiculously cost-effective way to start training your non-dominant side. Mirror writing is an extension, which is more challenging from a sight perspective. That is. It's difficult to read backwards. But where writing with both hands gets interesting is in its therapeutic value. Because of the concentration required, it is as much a meditation practice as it is fine motor training. The first 2 weeks or a month can be a bit overwhelming, but then the practice becomes deeply relaxing, which may be because of writing itself, regardless of using both hands or writing backwards. So I just read that first page from the other side. There's no way I could read backwards that well. But at least I can read my own handwriting. The best way to get started, this is on to the next page. The best way to get started is with a journal. I don't know, there might be another best way to get started, but I think a journal is pretty basic. Anyway, my daily journal, not this, is written in cursive and is basically a way of keeping track of workouts and other personal details. Anecdote here, or explanation. I have this thing called my star routine. It's really dorky, somewhat confusing, and it's part of the project, so be warned. Practicing non-dominant fine motor skills thus doubles as an excellent organization tool. All right, I'm just going to read that paragraph again. The best way to get started is with a journal. My daily journal, not this, is written in cursive and is basically a way of keeping track of workouts and other personal details. Practicing non-dominant fine motor skills thus doubles as an excellent organization tool. And finally, you learn to write better, both penmanship and content-wise. So not only do you become more coordinated, you are more relaxed, organized, and better at writing. Now that's some high-efficiency shit. And still, I forgot perhaps the coolest point of all. When one side of your body gets tired, you can switch up and keep going. Like point number 1, this falls into the basic, mundane, obvious category, but it is also profound. It really changes handwriting. There should have been an end parentheses there. Today is, this is me wrapping up. Today is a rare off day. I'll be filming a bunch of ambidextrous training routines that tie into many aspects of my life, which means I'm pretty excited about the day ahead. So the part where it goes, and still I forgot perhaps the coolest point of all, I switched to my right hand there and then back to my left hand for the next paragraph as just a visual of what my right handwriting and speed looks like. It's better, it's faster. That is skills heavy medicine basketball. That is a really cool training tool. So, the other idea with mirroring is to um, explain how I approach ambidexterity in a few different ways. And I don't have an infinite number of training routines, but they're evolving, and I'm also getting better. And part of this filming project is sort of like it's just like a fun personal challenge. I realized a while ago that I actually get better at whatever I'm doing if I watch a video. It's something that I recommend to people because you can judge yourself basically. Be like, that looked good, that didn't look good. This drill here is easier with a medicine ball basketball than a normal basketball. The lighter basketball is going to be harder for that one. So it just slows it down. Left hand, one hand, catch and release. I get 60 repetitions on my left and 60 on my right with lying on with various types of on my back shooting. And all of these indoor basketball drills are for the same basic purpose, which is you can't get to the court every day or 3-4 times a week. So develop a indoor routine that just keeps things a little bit fresh. I'm not myself training for any sort of competition or like it's a very like personal just trying to get better. But I imagine if I was in a league, I would totally ratchet this up and be doing drills every single day. I try to do this alongside indoor tennis things about 3 times a week. I do this style of crunch to just complete my routine. Each workout I do is typically a fixed routine. It's easier to just like go through a particular circuit, maybe with a little bit of modification, just so I don't have to think about everything anew every time. Putting the guide hand up on the ball just establishes that muscle memory, even though in this very static position, it's not necessary to have my guide hand on the basketball. Doing that has really improved my left-handed shooting. So this is the Revolution Balance Board Core 32. Sort of the idea is for it to be a skateboard, snowboard trainer. It is so much fucking fun. There's definitely this, I'm oftentimes jamming out to some tunes when I'm on this thing, and it becomes like a dance board. Doing it in rhythm with a song, doing the foot shifts is, well, it's a good way to wake up for sure. This is like, I think this is still like 5:45 a.m. or 6 a.m. I woke up early this day. Just felt like getting right to it. On the rev board, I do 12 squats, and that's the one routine thing, and I do it for as long as a song lasts, at least. Usually it's 1 or 2 or 3, but I haven't really gotten into the tricks, maybe just because my room is a little bit constrained. Don't have a lot of pad below me, but I do switch my foot position a lot, and having this indoor training tool has greatly improved my comfort on the skateboard, especially because that sport in particular, I would say I skate maybe once every 3 weeks. I'm going to start getting more creative with what I film. This is the first of the kitchen stuff. Scooping coffee beans. High level, offhand task. Those coffee beans are so delicate. It's easy to fling them all over the place. I realized that I didn't have quite enough coffee beans. I make very strong coffee. Didn't have quite enough coffee beans in my coffee, so I had the thought to film it because I do purposefully do a lot of kitchen tasks with my left hand. Coffee in the morning. And then I was off to chores. Visiting the chickens, giving them water and high protein feed. They are happy in their rescue squirrel cage. Protected. All friendly to each other. And no deaths yet. A month in. 50 birds came in the mail from McMurray Hatchery. And there are still 50. Raising chickens is a lot of fun. It's very low stakes. High reward. That could be the subtitle for this project. Low stakes, high reward. The last episode, number 2, was dedicated to my favorite ambidexterity training task, or routine, which is hitting the backboard. And I didn't include much of the Federer drill, so I'm trying to get 100 hits here without the ball hitting the ground. That's the basic goal. That's not happening a lot anymore because I'm backing up and trying to make it more complicated. A few weeks ago, I got a 500 hit without hitting the ground. Volley. I guess you call it a volley. I was stoked. But I also realized that I was making it really easy on myself. Just doing a bunch of short shots. Those short shots used to be hard, though. If you have a not totally consistent backboard, it adds a little bit of an element of challenge. Randomizes the reaction a little bit. And then first thing in the afternoon, Kate and I attacked the garden. This was a really fun, successful effort, and Kate did some really good film stuff. She's the only person I talked to about this project. So this is right-hand orientation shoveling. These are two 12 by 24 garden plots, and I'm just getting started here. This is the third tilling of this particular, like L or P, I guess it would be. And those greens were planted after the first tilling, just because I was impatient. They've grown wonderfully, though. Been the source of salads. This is at Woodlawn Farm, which overlooks this pretty, what's called a creek here. But it's brackish water, and it's a peninsula piece of land that's surrounded, on 3 sides by this creek. And then Virginia's way in the distance there. This is in Maryland. And then that became a mound. Just piled up the sides to the top and raked it out. Planted strawberries there. This is the last quadrant of that first little plot. shoveling, hoeing, raking, spading, I think it's called. um, I think that's like the realm of activities that is most neglected when it comes to ambidexterity, because it's so beneficial when you're shoveling to be able to do it both ways and sort of purposefully do it even so you're not wrecking your body. It's made me really enjoy and sort of like turn shoveling and hoeing and raking into like a sports mindset, like body opening rather than contracting activity. That building in the background no longer exists. I tore it down last Thursday. It was a real piece of shit. Pulled out the two. This is spading, by the way. This is harder and less enjoyable, but it's very effective. Just breaking up the clumps. And you gotta like hit that clump just right. So there's a bit of a coordination aspect in this. Anyway, with that building, I pulled out the two center posts with a 40 horsepower tractor, so nothing too big was required to pull down that rotten thing. And that ripped out a bunch of like boards in the middle. Excuse me. And then a third post, which was on the side. And then I finally pulled out a corner post, and it came all toppling down. And what preceded was my first time stripping shingles, which was god awful. Although now I'm kind of comfortable stripping shingles. There's definitely a technique to that. I've avoided roofing work, as a lot of people do. It's a specialist's job often, although I have put on shingles before. Raking that quadrant there. And quadrant is a silly word for it. Corner. And I'm just getting the weeds off the top there to create a nice planting bed. Not everything's broken down. This is a garden that's been dug out of turf over 3 weeks, so it'll be a lot more plush next year. But it's pretty planting soil, so I'm not complaining at all. There's some happy basils flopping in the wind, and some squash, some cucumber maybe, something like that. This second garden bed, I just tilled it all, and now I'm creating like a grid of, because the soil's not quite as loose and ready, so I just kind of shook and raked a bunch of loose soil into rows of 3, pretty wide spacing for the cucumbers and the squash, and mixed that with peat moss and some high nitrogen, what's called mushroom dirt, and created a little pocket for each one of the plantings. And then in between the plantings, I'll do another till just to really kill out the weed bed in about 2 weeks probably. Then it'll be set for the season. Get a bunch of melons and cucumbers and squash out of this. Using a shovel and rake, all manual tools, it's really improved my relationship with gardening, rather than having everything machine-based and like requiring tons of plastic, tons of oil, just to grow plants. This way it's pure workout, and there's no poorly built 2-cycle engine involved, or just completely excessive machinery. My favorite routine, well, I have a lot of favorites, barefoot walking and slacklining, a constant feature in these videos. A constant feature because I'm sort of like a slackline proselytizer. This kind of falls into falls right into the same category as the rev board. Balance sports are low impact, um, like a lot of sports, but some definitely are not cheap. But slacklining is it's not very expensive to get into. You can buy a setup for $40 on Amazon, I think, just to get the first feels for it. And this is obviously more involved. It's a what I call a cross slack course, just slack lines crossed over each other, making it a lot easier and lower tension, which is a little bit easier on the trees, and you don't have to set up a very high line for like an 80-foot walk. And I think there's like probably 200 feet of walking on this system here. I want to complete the whole thing without dropping on the ground before I move it to a different location. The trees are not getting harmed. They could not care less about these slack lines being there. Loblollies are a very powerful, healthy species. Southern pine. That's a pure southern pine forest. Drinking some Faustino Tempranillo. That's a budget pick from wine tastings. Really delicious. Rioja. What great wines. Cheers to us ambidextrous, ambitious people. So, I wanted to include this just because it is. I'm a very beginner at guitar. I don't play songs. I just practice scales. But last year I invested in a cheap left-handed classical guitar, and after I started playing that, because I wanted to give my left hand rest on that guitar, I started playing it upside down with my right, and then here I am. That guitar is a broken string. Here I am on a right-handed steel string guitar, not my preferred style. Practicing the left hand position. So left hand is the action hand, right hand is the fret hand. Practicing that upside down. Back to right hand here.
Do you notice that my facial expressions get gripped when I'm playing the guitar?
Obviously.
I didn't know that until I didn't know that until I saw myself on the video.
Gripped.
I'm actually working on that a lot right now. Relaxing my facial expression.
We're just being goofy. This is a little thing that I practice on both sides. I'm much more competent doing the finger picking with my right hand than left. But just a little bit of a scale drill there. And this is the next morning, kind of wrapping up this handwriting themed video. I thought I would include my typical style of writing, which is more just like a boring journal entry. So I'm going to read that boring journal entry and talk a little bit about cursive. So I started writing cursive a year ago, and earlier this year, and I'd been just like I had been a little bit scared of actually going for handwriting. I was daunted by writing cursive. Even though I learned cursive with my right hand, I haven't written in cursive for a long time. So I was kind of relearning it on both sides of my body when I was doing it on my left. I still don't do the uppercase letters in cursive. I just think all the uppercase letters look stupid, so I just use the standard print version for the start of sentences and names and such. That's my only cheat. But this is backwards cursive, which just like my backwards print, or mirror writing as it's called, just like my backwards print is better than my forwards version. And that's because the mechanics is the same as what I've been doing all of my life, sort of like a pull method. And what I have to say here is this. So this was written on the 18th. Yesterday was a bigger day than usual. I woke up to writing, of course. That kicked my foggy, hungover mood. Lucifer's invading my recording here. There you go. And then did a quick 3-point workout, yoga, basketball, red board. Those were all inside. So before 8 a.m., I was up to 4 points and had started mirroring number 3, handwriting. Recording this is important to that because this year has been the year of cursive, and I like it. It takes me back to 2 or 3 years ago when I was still unsteady with my print. Back to yesterday. Because I was up at the crack of dawn, I was excited to get my chores done early. On my way back from feeding the goats, gassing the wines, and checking in on the chicks, I swung by Cecil for some backboard. It was kind of rough, but I got into it. I finished with the Nadal drill for 2 points there, so that's 6 points. I came back home and made a bunch of scrapple and crisped up 2 waffles. A big breakfast was in order. Today, Kate and I got out the door fairly quickly to prep and plant a garden. 2 gardens, in fact. We first made a mound for strawberries, which had been picked up on the way down to Woodlawn. Local transplants for free, sweet. In summary, I tilled 2 beds for 2 points and also got a point for spading. And as I just mentioned, I got a point for raking as well. So that was 5 points out in the gardens. Pretty tough work out there. It was a successful garden session, up to 9, I say, but in fact 10 points on the way out. I did a barefoot slackline routine to close out the day, or so I thought. Back at home, I played the guitar some and then finally watched TV and had a fabulous Asian meatball dinner. Kate knocked that one out of the park. 2 stars for a 12-point day. I can feel it in my left shoulder. Today I have a bunch of work, but plan to be home early for a workout at Lancaster and then hop on the computer for some work there. May even finish up some video recording and post my number 3 mirroring project. My cursive, wrapping up again kind of quickly here, my cursive, like my print, is nothing special, but day after day, my left catches up with my right. It feels good, relaxed going into the day. At the end of 2 pages, I just kind of am done writing and abruptly finish things up. So that was a little bit of an awkward conclusion there, but not at all, not at all false either. Uh, I oftentimes note just how much writing in my notebook just makes me feel better. I start the particular notebook entry in a like, not in panic, but just like going through the 50 things ahead of me that day. And by the end of it, I feel um, focused and relaxed. And I've usually thought of a few things I need to do. Sometimes I restructure where I'm going in the morning to save myself an extra trip at the end of the day. It's a very like, journaling is a very like positive feedback loop thing to do, just like running or something is, unless you have an injury. um, Running, being in like a good cardio mindset is just, um, you sleep better, you have better endurance, of course. It's a positive feedback loop. Um, with cursive here, I've just started uh, getting comfortable enough to think about presenting it, and actually in working on this project and figuring out like I'm really trying to get better at filming handwriting and having it so that a person watching could actually read along as I'm writing, which is pretty damn challenging. It took me forever to find this stupid camera angle that where you can see the ink coming out essentially. Um, but it works well. I'm pleased with it. And I switched my Sharpie pen style so it still can bleed through and I can read it on the other side in the case of mirror writing. Um, and the permanent ink is more legible for the film. So works well. The what I've already done today, I did my first uh, in public. I used to do this on farm roads all the time where no one could see me. I don't know why it seems like such an embarrassing workout. But anyway, jogging with a basketball. I did that for the first time today at Lancaster Park. Um, and that's going to be part of my next mirroring episode, which is going to be about basketball. I'm pretty excited about that. On my on my run today, this dude who was on a walker got my attention, and he was like, "You're like Jason Williams," and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that was such a cool compliment." The only reason he said I was like Jason Williams is because I was a white guy dribbling a basketball. Although I would say that I'm I'm getting pretty good at the basketball jog ball handling thing. Definitely am a million times more comfortable with that rhythm than I was 10 years ago. That's been something I've been working on for some time. Dribbling a basketball is tough. It is a demanding sport. Right in the middle of NBA playoffs, I'm especially stoked about basketball, and there's a lot of talent out there to be excited about. I almost want like 5 different teams to win. That's pretty fun. I first learned about um, left-hand journal writing from the most ambidextrous person I've ever seen in my life, personally, in a IRL setting. Um, that was Tim Legler of the Washington Bullets, then Washington Wizards. Um, he mentioned that he does his workout journals with his left hand after he did a completely ridiculous left-handed shooting routine that changed my life and is probably the reason for this project at all. But at the end title, I'm just thinking if there's anything that I've missed, in particular about handwriting, which I probably didn't talk about quite enough to warrant the title of this video. But I think the one thing that I didn't emphasize quite enough is that, and I should really emphasize this the most in all mirroring episodes, is I'm not at all naturally ambidextrous. It's just something I started doing a little bit in sports in high school. Didn't take it seriously at all. I had to row both port and starboard on the rowing team in college. That was just sort of situational, and I was also stoked to do it. I didn't start writing, though, until I was 36, and I'm 39, so I pretty much have become ambidextrous in 3 years. And anyone who's excited about starting it should know that it is a pretty rewarding pastime and has some good, as I was saying, some good positive feedback loop benefits in life. Just kind of balancing the body and maybe even the mind a little bit. So I'll leave it at that. This has been mirroring number 3, handwriting. My name's Tucker. Hope you enjoyed.